With the drivers in this series having a lot of seat time in Miatas and Mustangs, we jump up a little bit in horsepower and in downforce to GT3 machinery, one of the more popular sports cars across the world and racing in so many series worldwide, and now they're racing here at Mosport in Canada. I'm here, Greg Ginsberg. Fortunately, Kyle Iyer not here tonight. He's currently at Grid Life in Michigan at Gingerman Raceway, so it's gonna be me commanding the show. But Greg, I think we're gonna be in for a really good show tonight.
Yeah, it should be a great show tonight, Finney, and thanks for having me along. And I hopefully I can fill Kyle's shoes reasonably well. It should be a great time. We're at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park, otherwise known as Mosport, up in Ontario, Canada. And this track is known for really one thing, actually really two things. One is its speed, and two, typically how drivers don't handle its speed all that well. And these DC region drivers, they are in some very, very fast GT3 machinery, cars like the Audi R8, the BMW Z4, the Ferrari 488, the McLaren, and the Mercedes AMG GT3 car. And they are going to have to really get a handle on the speed here at Mosport for what is, and this And as you come out of Quebec Corner, make your way down to turn 4. As you can see there, lots of elevation change once again, and you'll give a slight brush of the brakes there as you go in, but as you do, you're going to drop off a cliff. It is a very, very quick downhill. You have some camber there to save you, but then you set up for Moss Corner, and you'll notice there are 5. You've got 5A, 5B, and 5C. That is all considered part of Moss Corner, and it is again a very steep uphill turn. It is the smallest, or not the smallest, but the slowest corners here at Mosport. You're going to do a really tight turn in there, and then you come out of that right onto the longest straightaway. It's the Andretti Straight here at Mosport. Drives you all the way down towards turn 8, where you have another rise again. Sets you up for the S's. Turn 9, kind of a throwaway turn as you set up for, again, a very fast corner with a light apex that'll take you right back onto the front straight. But lots and lots of guts and determination will get you through a lap here at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. Again, very, very fast, and not a lot of runoff room, Finian, at a lot of these corners here as we watch cars now on their first couple of laps in the 20-minute qualifying session.
Yeah, I'm also going to apologize to you, Greg. I forgot to put a thing for the Discord audio on my on the track map thing, so half of that was a bit cut off, so I do apologize.
Oh, they probably
got the second half
better
of
that
it.
they didn't hear me.
No, but you're talking about, and there is one thing I want to kind of come back to, is this first sector. You're talking about just how blind the corners are. I mean, looking through turns 1, turns 2, turn 2A as well, and also turn 3, the entire first sector, these guys working through some blind corners, and it's really difficult in some parts of the track to really see where you're going. There could be a car waiting for you, and you're really not going to know what car is there until the exit of the corner.
Exactly, yeah. If somebody goes around, you won't know pretty much until it's too late here. And you can see now as cars are making their way through, and now coming through the this is coming through Moss Corner and setting up for the Andretti Straight, the very long straightaway here where cars will get up into the high hundreds as they then make their way over towards turn 8. And the turn that comes off of the straightaway is also a very high-speed corner here, as you see the drivers are setting up for turn 8, and then they end up going through the S's and start to set up for the very last corner. Turn number 9 is also a very slow corner, as you see the drivers coming through here, and then they set up for turn 10 to bring them onto the front straight. And of course, that is an absolutely critical turn here at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park, because if you don't carry speed out of turn 10, you know, you got a lot of downhill running here where you can end up losing positions.
Yeah, indeed. And here as we look at just some drivers on the track, Ken Alseal in a BMW. In fact, a lot of BMWs in the field tonight, taking up the first 3 spots indeed. So Ken Alseal up at the top of the charts with a 116 point, pretty much flat. Then Ryan Maloney in the 13 car going to line up second, and then moving on back into third. Thomas Layton in the 12 is going to round out your first 3 positions, but a lot of BMWs up at the front. Any, Greg, do you have any, I guess not prediction, any reasoning really to why we're seeing so many of the BMWs?
My understanding, and a lot of the drivers from DC region ran these cars for some practice last night. And the feedback that we are getting is that, especially for a long run, the Z4 is probably the most stable. It's the easiest to set up. A lot of these drivers, to give a little bit of history, iRacing, the platform that we're racing on here with the DC region, just had a very big update. I believe it was on Monday, if I remember correctly. And what happened was, in doing those updates, some of the setups that these drivers had worked on for quite a long time to really personalize the cars and make it a better fit for them on track, those setups were pretty much invalidated after this update to the iRacing platform. And so a lot of the drivers, they pretty much had to go back to square one, go back to the base setup that's provided to them in iRacing, and then try to develop a new setup, what's going to be fastest for Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. And what a lot of them found was that the Z4, pretty much out of the box, was a much more docile car than some of the other cars. Now, I know in talking to Kyle and some of the other drivers that, previously, I think one of the big favorites was, and actually a couple of weeks ago when we were at Road Atlanta for Season 2 of the DC Region Series, that a lot of the drivers had gone to the Mercedes AMG because it has a lot of torque, and it also was a very stable car. But in addition to handling changes, I'm also getting word that there were some, I guess what they would call balance of performance changes as well. And the BMW appears to be, at least out of the gate with that baseline setup that comes from iRacing, it is a faster car at a lot of tracks, including CTMP, than some of the other platforms that we're going to see on track tonight.
Yeah, and we're talking about the Mercedes AMG. The highest one in the field is currently running in 12th, and you're looking right at him, Francois Brou, the highest Mercedes driver out of a decent amount that are here. There are, I think, about, from my rough count, about 7 of them out here. So, so they're not doing too well in comparison to some of the other cars. And even speaking of which, too, even some Audis too. We're actually really only a few. Currently looking at Christopher Lapras in the 15 cars, currently up in 4th.
Yeah, and so one of the other challenges now, a lot of the races that I've been a part of recently, and for those of you, and most of the folks from the DC region should know me, besides being a racer with the DC region and also one of the announcers at Summit Point for a number of years. I also served on the board of directors of the DC region for a while. One of the big things here for the DC region guys, as they were doing some testing in these cars, is that these races are going to be a little bit longer. This race is going to be a little bit longer than some of the other ones that I've been announcing lately, and some of the other ones that have been as part of the DC region series, that this is going to be an hour-long race. And so not only did the drivers have to kind of contend with trying to work a fast setup, a suspension setup on the cars, but what they've also had to contend with is, in some cases, how much fuel it will take to run an entire hour, and whether or not the drivers can make it an entire hour on just even a single tank of gas, that they don't need to necessarily pit in and fuel those cars up and lose time. And so some of the drivers, they think some of the chassis, and I think the BMW is one, that the feeling is that the car can make it probably for an hour race, not much longer. I think they were looking at maybe like an hour and 5 minutes or so was pretty much what the car could handle. And some of the other chassis, what they're looking at, and it's really amazing when you see all the adjustability that you have in these cars, and not just with suspension, but much like the real cars, to be able to change fuel mappings as well. And so actually I was listening to Ken Hausiel and how he felt that he was going to probably have to drop to an alternate fuel map for at least a couple of laps in order to make sure that that car has enough there, and there's enough margin of error to be able to finish the race. And he thinks maybe that alternate fuel map will cost him maybe 1 to 2/10 of a second per lap. So, maybe just a second over the course of the entire race. But, again, it's the difference between making it to the checkered flag and having the car not make it to the checkered flag.
Yeah, absolutely. That's going to be definitely very important for these drivers. Obviously want to make sure you make it all the way to the end. You don't want to be cut out just at the last second. Colin Daner in the two car, riding on board with him. Unfortunately, I didn't put a camera facing the helmet. I forgot to do that while I was setting up for everything. You can see it in the mirror, though. I'll try to see before the start of this race if I can set up something real quick so you can get a classic look at his helmets.
We've gotten word from Colin and his brother Ryan that we need to see need to take a look at the helmet. I think a couple weeks ago at the end of season 2 of the WDCR region, or probably WDCR SCCA iRacing series. We were at Road Atlanta, and Colin was virtually dressed as Bender.
Oh, wow.
Bender the robot. So we'll have to see. And there we go. We're following Christopher Lapras right now. He is in the number 5 car.
Crashed.
Yeah, good timing. The number 15 car. He is currently, I believe, the 4th fastest driver on track. His best time, a 1:16.148. So he is only about 3/10 off of our provisional pole sitter, Ken Hausiel. But most importantly, not most importantly, he's currently, like I said, sitting 4th. That's on the 2nd row. He's only 1/1000th of a second off of Ryan Maloney, who is our 3rd fastest driver currently. And Maloney is only 5,000ths of a second off of Thomas Layton, who is our 2nd fastest runner right now. And Lapras, as we saw him go off, he is our first Audi driver on track, as we said, running 4th fastest. The next car, not a Z4, is actually Forrest Landy, who many of you know is a Spec Miata driver in the DC region, driving the number 4 car. He's driving one of the Ferrari 488 GTs. And he is currently now, well, he was 7th fastest, but Sly Stafford, also in a Ferrari, leapfrogs him and moves up to 7th fastest.
And one thing I want to highlight, too, I'm actually amazed by the amount of Ferraris, which is something I don't normally say. Actually, I take that back. I guess this is more or less what we've been seeing with it. Oh no, there are 3 of them in here. This is actually appear to be a rarer and rarer car, not only just in this series, but a few other GT3 series I've seen. It seems most people are gravitating towards, BMW, the Audi, the Mercedes, but they're kind of, ignoring the Ferrari. And even the McLaren, for that matter, too, which is the oldest of the bunch. So it is quite surprising to see that.
Yeah, and I think, and we had talked about this a bit for the Road Atlanta event a couple weeks ago. Again, wrapping up season 2 of the DC Region Series, and the McLaren in particular has a reputation for being a little bit more skittish. And a little bit harder to control, and it really takes a very smooth hand and a very smooth foot in order to make your way around the track, and it just has a little bit higher learning curve for the drivers. Now, the interesting thing, though, is Season 3 here of the DC Region Series is going to exclusively be these GT3 cars. And so, yes, the drivers can certainly change cars from weekend to weekend, but as opposed to previous series and seasons of the DC Region Series where the types of cars changed from week to week. And so, yes, for example, at Road Atlanta, you could have been running in the TDI Cup Jetta, and maybe the weekend before that, when we were at Lime Rock, you would be running in the Kia GTS car. Now you have the opportunity really to focus on a chassis and really get better at it as you continue through a season.
Absolutely. Here as qualifying is just now wrapping up. The last few drivers really can pretty much start your lap. You're not going to be able to start another one here as you see Mark Laban's in the 20 coming across the line, and on that last lap wasn't able to improve. So this is his last chance to try to move himself up the order. Actually, correction to that statement, these guys will be able to start another lap, but we're really running out of chances, though, to really get out on the track. And you have to remember, too, you also have to get out there, warm up the tires a little bit. You can't just go out there cold turkey.
Right, exactly. It definitely takes some time, much like in real life, to get the tires up to speed. And there's Labance goes around, and that's going to make things. I've got a couple drivers that have gone off. That's going to obviously make things a little bit difficult for them. They're not going to be able to set another fast lap, as we're now just about a minute left to go. And remember, our provisional pole sitting lap time is a 1:15 and change. Now, of course. Flying laps do count, so if you're still on track when that checkered flag comes out, you still have the opportunity to finish a lap. But yeah, I mean, you can't just sit on the pit wall for half the session, go out and expect to knock out a flyer with nothing but an out lap. You definitely need to get some heat in the tires, and that's what kind of makes not only qualifying difficult, but when the racing starts, and we'll see that in just a few moments, these drivers have to contend with, that slower first lap, those slower first couple of corners as they come off of a rolling start. And, you have that challenge of making sure that you can keep your car underneath you while trying to attack, and in some cases trying to defend while those tires are still coming up to temperature.
Absolutely. Now, really, the time is going to tick off, and now, essentially, you pretty much got to start your final lap here as qualifying. The check flag is going to be out, flagman waving it out, so that means you can complete your lap, cannot start a new one. So we'll see, can anyone take away Ken Alciol's fastest lap? It's definitely not going to be himself, as he's going to put it into the barrier here. Looking at Thomas Layton, he's coming across the line. Or across the line he will come. Does he improve on this lap? He does not.
No, he does not. Although I'll tell you, incredibly consistent in practice. He ran a 1:16.121, and as we just saw, his fastest time in qualifying was a 1:16.141. So only 0.02 of a second between those two sessions. Very consistent. Evan Schickel, you can see, goes off on his last lap. He did not improve. He had a fast lap of a 1:16.389. Of course, we still have some cars on track. That's currently good enough for 5th.
Yeah, and Kessel going to come across the line, not going to improve his time, so he's going to have to remain where he is, which is currently in 12th. For the most part, you got a few more guys still running about. And Daniel Gross in the 72 back in 19th. So he has some time he can potentially gain here as he comes out of the final corner across the line for him. Will it be an improvement? It will not be.
He turns a 1:17.802 on that. Pardon me, that was his last lap. So he turned a 1:17.496. So did improve just a little bit. But that unfortunately is going to keep him down in 19th position.
James Scott Blue a little bit sideways in his Mercedes. This is a car we've seen him drive in the past with a few rounds of GT3 that we've had in this series. But again, as you were saying, this is the first full season that they're running with this machinery, as qualifying is just about a tick over here for Mosport. We're going to begin race number 1 of the season.
Yeah, and as we mentioned, this is going to be a 60-minute race, and to mix things up just a little bit, what we're going to be doing, and this is an 8-round series, so 8 different weekends. What we're going to be doing is on the even-numbered weekends, we're going to be doing the 60-minute quasi-enduro race, but on the even-numbered rounds, what we're going to be doing is we're going to have 2 shorter races. We're going to have 2 25-minute races. So mix things up, and it definitely makes the strategy a little bit different from weekend to weekend.
Absolutely, definitely enjoy seeing that as much as I like seeing this helmet. There we go. I did it just for you, Dana. I adjusted it for you.
There we go. And as a Washington Nationals fan, I'll just call that a baby shark.
Yeah, so there you got a balloon. I believe it's supposed to be a balloon. I'm not sure what character is supposed to be exactly.
Well, you've got the air, the entryway there for the cooling system at the back, so it looks like he's got a little shark fin on the back. So I'm going with a baby shark. I won't start singing, otherwise we won't stop all night long.
Oh, so, yeah. One thing we will though start is our starting lineup here. So starting on row number 1 is going to be Ken O'Seal lineup in the 23 on pole. Next to him, Thomas Layton in the 12.
All right, starting on the second row today on the inside, starting third, it'll be Ryan Maloney with Chris Lapras starting in 4th position. And on the third row, we've got Evan Schickel with Mark Shrivastava starting in I guess that would be 6th position in the number 87 car. Starting 7th will be Chad Griffith. And then 8th would be Sly Stafford in the number 719 car. Starting 9th today is going to be Forrest Landy with Francois Brou starting in 10th on that 5th row. Then we've got Robert Porter. He'll be starting 11th with Andrew Kessel starting in 12th position on the outside of the 6th row. And starting on the 7th row in 13th position be Mark Labance with Jonathan Murchison right beside him, the both number 20 car and the number 18 car. Starting 15th today will be Frank DeBerzi with Scott Merker starting right next to him in 16th. And then we move over to 17th position. One of the organizers of the series here will be Dave Fitzgerald. He'll be starting 17th with Greg Obadiah. Actually, Greg Obadia. He'll be starting 18th. Spec Racer Ford and Spec Miata driver, actually SSM driver. Then we've got Daniel Gross in the number 72 car. He'll be starting 19th with Thomas Lee, starting 20th.
Yeah, moving up back in 21st, we got Don Manning lining up in the 92 car. Next to him, Sam Scott in the 98. Gonna complete that row. Back in 23rd, gonna be Andrew Chow in the 29. Next to 24th, it's gonna be 26 of Marcus Pine. And moving on back, we got Murphy Nichols, and next to him, Harry Horning in the 26th position.
All right. And then we've got after those drivers, we've got Colin Daner in the 27, starting 27th. We saw his helmet just a little while ago. Then we've got Alan Claffey starting at 28th, a noted autocrosser with the Washington, D.C. region. And I believe that rounds out the field.
We got everyone lined up here and ready to go. So there are 28 GT3 cars ready to line up around this track, and again, we're looking to be a really good race. This is a really interesting track to drive around. It's one of those racetracks where you find yourself driving the track more than anything else, or than any of the other drivers around you.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, the speed here is terrifying. We were talking a little bit earlier. Good driver and a former Washington, D.C. region driver, Tristan Herbert, when he was running in Pirelli World Challenge in touring car, had we'll just call it an exciting race here. Some exciting battles in his rookie year when he was in his Volkswagen Golf, and he mentioned how terrifying the speeds are here. And as you see, as the drivers make their way through turn 9 and heading up towards turn 10 and the start of this race, a lot of concrete right beside you almost everywhere you go. And the green flag is out, Finian.
Indeed, it is green flag. We're 1 hour here at Mosport. Ken Hill leading the field down through turns 1. Now heading through turn 2. This is a big chaotic zone. This little short shoot through the corners. For the most part, it looks like we're going to make it okay.
Yeah, and you can see already we've got some drivers trying to make their way up the inside as they go into turn number 2, which again is that blind downhill corner. It's a double apex turn as they then make their way up towards turn 3. You can already see we've got some of the drivers flashing their lights, trying to get in the heads of the drivers ahead of them. It, 60-minute race, and they're already trying about 30 seconds in.
Yeah, absolutely. You can't blame him for trying here. As you see the top 3 all BMWs here lined astern. Leighton was trying to make a move down on Ken Hill, wasn't able to get it done. He's got to deal with Ryan Maloney, who is right behind, trying to get that spot.
All right, we've got our drivers now on the long Andretti straight here. And you can see here already the speeds are up over 150 miles an hour. They're going to have to brush off a little bit when they get to the end here, going through turn number 8, but not a lot until you get to turn number 9, which is one of the slowest corners here. Not that many of them are all that slow.
Here, working through those final corners, complete lap 1 here. Still, you can see not a whole lot of time is ticked by. Very quick laps around here, about minute 16, minute 17 seconds for these drivers.
Yeah, and already you can see Ken Houseals opened up a little bit of a lead.
Oh, yeah,
we've got a big wreck here on the front straight before we even get to turn number 1. We've got the number 5 car. Looks like it was involved. Let's take a look.
Andy, here, this is Jonathan Murchison in the 18 car. Just got some grass out of the final corner. And again, there's a lot of grass around this track. Was in the middle of the track. Oh, and nowhere for a lot of drivers. You see Sam Scott got a little piece of that as well.
Yeah.
Who was that? Dana that got into it as well.
Yeah, not just nowhere for them to go there on the front straight. Yeah, it doesn't. We've seen a lot of tracks like this. For example, on the front straight at Road America, where the walls just really make things seem very confined. And when an incident like that happens, there's just not much you can do about it except just kind of shoot for the gap. As we take a look here at Evan Schickel, he started 17th. I would call him the hard charger at this point, but it looks like he had some issues with the car, and he's fallen back through the pack now.
Yeah, indeed. I think he had some trouble in Moss Corner. Unfortunately for him, it's going to mostly end his day here. He's just trying to limp it back to the pits, but still up in the front. It's currently Ken O'Seal leading the field. And notably, too, you can see our BMWs have broken away into their own little pack here. Christopher Lapper is kind of by himself in his Audi. And then moving on, we got Chad Griffith in the 28 and Mark Shrostrova in the 87 trying to chase him down in behind.
Yeah, and it you've got, as you mentioned, we've got the Audi there, but it's a little while even before we get to any of the Ferraris. The Ferraris are that had qualified really towards the front end of the field. I think the first Ferrari we have right now is Forrest Landy in the number 4 car. He is running 7th, and I think we're looking at him right now as he heads through Moss Corner, the hairpin here, and onto the Andretti straight. But pretty much what we saw in qualifying, the Z4s, at least early on, definitely seem to have the outright pace that the Audis, the Ferraris, and notably the Mercedes just don't seem to have.
Yeah, you see, the BMW and Ferrari side by side. That's Kessel in the 19, the yellow BMW, going to go on past into turn 8. A great passing opportunity down the straight. Really easy to build up a run, especially with the BMWs with the power they have. Easily going to get by the Ferrari.
Yeah, so we've talked in the past about. And I don't want to say horses for courses, and the Ferrari definitely isn't the horse for the course here. But for example, at Road Atlanta, or VIR, where you have corners that you have to dig out of, like Oak Tree at VIR, like Turn 7 at Road Atlanta, that really were advantageous for the Mercedes. The Mercedes is kind of known as the torque monster of all of these GT3 cars. And you can see here from the speeds that you carry through almost every single corner here at Mosport, at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park, that torque advantage just isn't an advantage for you at this track. Now, again, Moss Corner, which is the hairpin over 5A, 5B, and 5C. Here, you have it is a slower corner, but you just don't have that advantage here. As we see, Chad Griffith went off, and he loses a number of positions.
Yeah, and we're talking about Moss corner too, a very hard corner to set up for. You know, that you can try to pick a braking zone. A lot of chances you might brake a little bit too early, might brake a little bit too late. It's so hard to get it perfect. And if you're just a little bit too late, if you're a little bit too aggressive, you're going to go flying off into the grass. Fortunately for Griffith, he didn't have it as bad as we saw. Even Schickel go off in the same corner earlier, so Griffith is going to continue on in 15th.
Yeah, and you know that Moss corner, it's as much as we talk about all the blind corners here at Mosport, Moss corner, when you go and head into that corner, the apex is just before the crest of a hill, so you can see the apex there. Unfortunately, you can't see anything past the apex. And so, I mean, you're really still going on faith that you've got that turn in just right, because otherwise you'll run off wide coming out of 5A going towards 5B, and 5B is a heavy braking corner. So it's really very multifaceted there, and it's very difficult to tie it all together.
Looking at his great battle there, you saw one of the Ferraris getting past another Ferrari. That was Forrest Landy making a pass, or sorry, that's Cy Stafford, sorry, making a pass on Forrest Landy. He was able to get on by Francois Brou and Robert Porter sitting in behind.
Yeah, and they're just kind of sitting and waiting there, I think, with Landy, as he's given up a couple of positions early on in the race here.
And riding on board with their Mercedes. A lot of the guys getting spread out early on, a fairly tight racetrack, so it's pretty hard through some of these corners to go side by side. We've seen, again, a lot of the passes come on the back straightaway. We've also seen, you know, you can definitely set up some stuff through turn 3.
Yeah, exactly. Heading through turn 3 over Quebec corner. Again, a lot of that is because it is a slightly slower entry than some of the first corners on the lap here. Again, and you can see him coming through here. It is very tight on entry, and past the apex is when it opens up. So, you know, as long as you can carry a little bit more entry speed, and we see a car going off there.
Oh, it's Mark Labance, I think.
Yeah, I think that, I believe that was Labance. Let's take a look.
Get a look at it here. We're talking about this is through turn 3. Ooh, did it go wide?
Yep. Yeah, he goes wide, has a car come underneath him, so he doesn't have much room, and you can see he had those wheels off driver's left. And that's actually, I think we followed Labance towards the end of qualifying, and that's exactly where he had gone off in qualifying as well. You know, but again, he had that car underneath him, wanted to give racing room to that driver, and he just took it a little bit too much to the outside there.
And came back, and then once he started to rejoin the track, it looked like he was going to be okay, but then as he's rejoining the track, just got the car slippery, and around he went.
Yeah, it's so hard to judge there, because as you're going around the outside of that corner to try and judge how much steering input you need to give, and you know, obviously is what we saw there is he had a little bit too much steering input when the left front wheel made it back onto the track surface, and it hooked the car right around.
Looking at a battle brewing for second place, Ryan Maloney trying to put pressure on Leighton up in front of him, and
and there you go. Leighton runs wide, going through.
And how Seal went wide as well, and Maloney gonna blow past both of them. How about that? A 2-for-1 deal in Moss corner. Yeah,
there we go. So both our leader and our second place driver had issues going through turn 5B.
You can see he went there. It wasn't as bad. Leighton, though, went really wide. You can see him struggling to get this car back on the surface, and then there we go. Finally gets back on the asphalt.
When he finally does, the rear end steps out, and Leighton almost put it right into the wall on the outside there, and he ran the chance of giving up another position.
Right on board here with Leighton, you can see I think this is that mistake, that a lot of drivers make. You're looking at the car ahead of you, try to you almost copy his line, and ended up going in the grass with him.
Yeah, it's a little bit of that target fixation going into Moss corner there.
That makes our new leader, Ryan Maloney, in the 13. However, he can't rest long. There's Ken O'Sill. He wants that spot back. Yeah,
O'Sill had a fairly quick recovery there. He's about 3/10 back right now as they make their way through, and I believe, I'll have to take a look here, but O'Sill qualified almost 0.4 of a second faster than Maloney. So, we'll have to see here. But, having a faster ultimate time is one thing, but O'Sill still has to be able to find a way around Ryan Maloney. And as you mentioned, there aren't a number of, for these higher speed cars, there aren't that many opportunities to pass. What Hausiel's going to have to do is get a good run out of Moss Corner, I think, in order to make that pass stick.
Scott Merker in the 77, he's spun off. I'm trying to see which corner. So this is also Moss Corner.
Yeah, and you can see there that uphill entry at 5A. First part of, he got into
Francois Brou,
a car that was rejoining. Yeah, was that Francois Brou that came across him? Yeah.
Yeah, it was. I'm trying to see how Francois Brou ended up there. Just went a little bit wide.
So you come off of that late apex going up the hill there, and then you have to immediately get on the brakes. There's just a very short little distance between 5A and 5B in Moss Corner, and you have to really stand on the brakes to get around that second part, and it's pretty easy for the front end of the car to just wash out, as we're seeing here, and you end off in the grass over driver's left.
Thomas Layton, again, was running in second place. Has dropped back to fourth. It was actually lower in fifth. Just got past Mark Shrivastava into turn 4, so up another spot for Layton, trying to make a claw back to the front. And looking at Hausiel and Maloney, this gap actually hasn't dropped a whole lot. This is all, I mean, maybe a tenth or so, but I'm surprised that Hausiel has not gone past yet.
Yeah, well, we'll have to see, because we're looking at them right now. They're coming up on some backmarker traffic. And the first time as they start to make their way through the back of the field, and we'll have to see then how Ryan Maloney handles that. And a lot of times it's just kind of, sometimes you have your luck with traffic, sometimes you don't have it. You come up on cars sometimes right at the worst time. And so we'll see how Maloney handles it, and almost as importantly, how Hausiel plans for that.
And you can see these guys work through some lap traffic. Ooh, Maloney looks like he got a little bit tight, almost went wide in the corner. The lap car, though, whoa, is that Dave Fitzgerald? I think that might.
Looking at the hood of the car, I think that might have been Fitzgerald as they
that was actually
through. I guess that was coming through turn 3 and over at Quebec Corner, and you let our leaders by. Oh, no.
Yeah, Murphy Nichols in the 5 car. Yeah, that was the car that got by.
And Nichols currently running, I believe, 19th overall.
Take a look back at Hausiel. He's starting to close that gap out. He's actually been making up a lot of time on the Andretti straight to Maloney. Closes that gap in quite a bit now, under 0.3 of a second, almost 0.2 of a second by the time they get to turn 8.
And now we'll see, because this is going to be critical, how much speed they carry here. Again, turn 9. Not necessarily the most critical. What you need to do is set up to make sure you can carry as much speed as possible through turn 10 as you make your way down the front straight here and in through turn number 1, and you make this downhill run over towards turn number 2. And you can see the rise there going into 2, and Hausiel all over him right now.
And Scott, his car absolutely destroyed and up. Guess which corner this happened in?
Oh, I would probably guess it would be Moss.
Yeah, pretty much has been catching so many drivers off. Ooh, and I think he kind of gave up halfway through there, just knowing once he was in the grass, he's kind of headed towards the wall.
Yeah, there's not.
Oh, and something happened to Shrivastava. Also, is this Moss corner?
Oh, yes.
No, it's not. Okay, it's turn 3.
No, turn 3. Yeah, a lot of these corners, once you drop a wheel. Oh, here we go, and yeah, Shrivastava just couldn't do anything about that. Is that the other car there bounced right in front of him.
Right on board and see what happened to Layton. This is him riding behind Christopher Lapras. There's a battle for 3rd. Oh, got loose.
See here, yeah, he got loose. He got loose coming through 2, and you could see Shrivastava there trying to wait as long as possible before making a decision on where to drive, but. There was just no escaping that. Yeah,
and 2 of our front runners taken out with Layton back in 8th place for trying to see where is Shrivastava. Oh, he's back in 9th. So
yeah, he's down in 9th right now. And I would suspect after those impacts that those cars won't exactly be running optimally with the same type of speed that they had previously.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
All right, so let's take a look here. We've got still have that battle going on for the lead between Maloney and Hausiel. And they're starting to come up on a lot more of the back marker
Whoa!
traffic. Oh!
Oh man, that was a time to go back to the forward-facing camera. A lap car spun in Moss Corner is gonna collect our leader Ryan Maloney, and you know he's having doing a pretty solid job of holding the lead over a lap car.
And you could just see how quickly things go awry here, how much ground he had, and he tried to come underneath. And I think given where that car was pointed, I think he just guessed wrong. If he had done what Halcyon did, which was drive to the outside, I think he would have been in good shape. But bad luck there for Maloney in the 13 car. He now drops back to second, and with undoubtedly a lot of damage at the front of that car.
Yes, this is Daniel Gross in the 72. It just got loose in his car in Moss Corner. Very easy thing to do, and unfortunately for him, he's just kind of stuck there. Was trying to get off the track before the leaders got there. But even
like I said, I think Maloney just and that might have been a little bit of target fixation, frankly. That the only other choice that that car had was to drop it into reverse and go the long way to the outside of the track, which really would have created a lot of mayhem. But it is what it is. So Maloney now sitting in second, and he is now about a little bit more than 2.5 seconds off of our leader, Ken Halcyon.
Yeah, really unfortunate, but looking back here, a massive amount of cars here in this battle led by Andrew Kessel. You see they're working past some lap traffic as well. It's going to bunch everyone up. You see the Ferraris, Landy, Porter, and Sly Stafford, 5th, 6th, and 7th, all bunched up here, trying to work through that traffic, and they're all in behind Christopher Lapras, who's actually trying to break away from them.
Yeah, and interesting there is the slower car moves over driver's right. I mean, typically the line, it's almost like the front straight at Summit Point, where the driving line there, at least for the start of the Andretti straight, is actually driver's left. So I think that also may have confused some of the drivers as well, as far as how to get around that slower traffic, as we watch right off the wing of Forrest Landy here on the front straight.
Yeah, and heading down into turn one, you can see Porter really anxious to get by. He's making a lot of dives into the corner. Landy trying to beat him off the corner. For Landy, he's trying to chase down Castle up ahead as they working through some lap traffic through turn 3. And hope that car gonna go flying off into the sea of grass.
That makes it easier.
Yeah, indeed it does. Trying to figure out who that was. Wait, find who that was.
Yeah, but I'll tell you here, as we watch that battle, as we have Landy and Porter and Sly Stafford. This is kind of the Ferrari race sitting right here. We've got the 3 of our Ferraris all bunched up, and I think they may be the last 3 Ferraris on the track at this point.
Yeah, in fact, they're the only 3 Ferraris on the track. So
there you go.
All bunched up right here together. They're running really well. Again, 5th, 6th, and 7th, so a good run for them. Sure, they like to be higher. Trying to make it higher as they're trying to chase down the 19 of Kessel, who's currently the next car directly in front of them. For Kessel started back in 12th up into 4th, so a really great climb forward for him.
Yeah.
We're going to see here battles for the lead pretty much sorted themselves out with that incident with Maloney and Hasil. You see Kessel make a move to the inside, going to get on by. That's always a tricky place to pass down in turn 1. Whoa, got pretty tricky there.
Yeah, and that was I think that's Murphy Nichols that's sitting in the middle of that battle right there. And that holds up the Ferrari train just a little bit as Kessel starts to open up just a little bit of a gap back to Forrest Landy there, as they're trying to make their way through the traffic as they make their way down now out of turn 2 and into turn 3.
This is also a really hard thing to do, is you're battling with other drivers and also amongst lap traffic. It's a little bit hairy there. You see Landy get out sideways.
Landy really had to jam on the brakes there going into the second part of Moss Corner, and now we've got Sly Stafford sitting right, or probably not Sly Stafford, Robert Porter making his way around, and Sly Stafford looks like he wants a piece of Landy as well as they go into turn 8.
So he's going to go a long way around, going to go wide in turn 8. Got to be careful. He can easily go off the track when make the move work. Landy going to fall back in behind into 7th. Stafford up into 6th. Mercedes now going to pull off, I think, let this trio of Ferraris on by, and he's going to stay out of it.
All right, so Landy now in the span of 2 turns gives up 2 positions, and so he's going to want to try and fight back here.
This is the closest battle on the track. Everyone else separated by about a second or so, so keep an eye on this battle of the Ferraris here for 5th place. Porter going to go all wide in turn 3. Now they're going to be side by side heading down into Moss Corner. And that's tricky to try to make it work on the outside.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to be on the outside there. Going to, and we have contact coming out of turn 4, heading up to Moss Corner and running off the track. Well, I guess he didn't run off the track. He may have had just a little bit of help there. Robert Porter in the 136. Let's take a look at it again here.
Running off the back wing of Porter to see if there was some contact. Oh, definitely
it was pretty clear there was contact. Yeah, yeah. He had a little bit of help there.
On the entry again to the corner and just right into the tire barriers. Hard hit for Porter. It's definitely going to break something in that car.
Yeah, and it looks like Porter might have gotten on the brakes a little bit earlier. Actually, not just looked like it. He definitely got on the brakes a little bit earlier than our second Ferrari, Sly Stafford, and I guess the driver that makes out the best at all that, Forrest Landy, who had just previously given up 2 positions to both of those drivers. Landy's now up to 4th, and he is. I don't want to say he's got it easy at this point, but he's got a little bit under 2 seconds back to Shrivastava, who's trying to make his way back up.
Yeah, and the 87 car for Shrivastava. Back at him in his BMW, getting around Kessel. Actually, for Kessel.
Yeah, I think Kessel. No, I think that's Kessel sitting right behind. You can see in the yellow car, who had lost a couple positions before. They're both he and Shrivastava trying to make their way through and pass some slower traffic there. But Kessel definitely having some issues with the straight line speed. It looks like there's a little bit of damage to the front end of that car there. Actually, I think we saw where he got the damage earlier. That he just doesn't have the same straight line speed that Shrivastava has here as they're making their way onto the front straight. But Shrivastava and Kessel still, I think, closing up a little bit to Landy. That last time by, Shrivastava actually almost 0.6 of a second faster than Forrest Landy.
Yeah, we'll see them coming here. There you see that red Ferrari, Forrest Landy in 4th place, and Shrivastava in the green BMW, the yellow BMW to Kessel. All of you guys trying to chase down one another here. As you approach the halfway mark of this race.
Yeah, it's going pretty darn quick here as we're, we've got just about halfway. Actually, well, we've got a little more than halfway. We've gone through just about 37 minutes of we've got about 37 minutes remaining of a 60-minute race. So a little bit under, what, about 40% done.
Yeah, and checking back at our leader, Ken O'Seal in the 23. No one really able to touch him at the moment. Yeah, pretty much the best car on the track. I don't think really many people can argue with that.
No, and you can see Maloney there in the distance as O'Seal rolls through turn 1. Maloney just gets onto the front straight. Gap now about 4 seconds. And that last time by, actually, O'Seal not all that much faster than Maloney, but fast enough nonetheless. He was about 0.4 faster. Yeah,
I was going to say, I would say it was quite a bit gap between them. So O'Seal pulling away at 0.4 a second, and if anything, Maloney needs to start pulling this in closer. But remember, we were talking about it too in qualifying, that the gap between these two drivers in qualifying was 0.4 of a second.
0.4, yeah.
For Maloney, gonna have to just try. I think he's kind of stuck here sitting in second. It's quite a bit ways back to Lapras in the 15. I can imagine he's getting bored. He's been around almost no one since the drop of the green flag.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Well, that's over the course of an hour-long race. That has to be in the back of his mind a little bit. He's got the focus right now, and he's keeping the car on track. But you have to see that when he's just turning laps and he's all by himself. When we get to say 40 minutes in, 45 minutes in, is he still going to have that focus?
Brilliant. Also, just looking at the the right side of my screen here for the time and score, and you can see they're pretty much past 20th place. Are a whole bunch of retired drivers. Everyone back from Marcus Pine and the 26 has called it a day. So we've lost 8 cars in this race so far. We got 20 remaining on the track, and only 13 of them on the lead lap.
Yeah, so a lot of attrition. So we've lost Marcus Pine, Dan Gross, Sam Scott, Mark LeBance, John Murchison, Evan Schickel, Greg Obadia, who we saw early on, and Alan Claffey as well.
Talking about Dave Fitzgerald, well, here he is trying to get past Porter. This is actually Fitzgerald driving in the BMW. And I'm sure enjoying this much better than the Volkswagen Jetta.
Yeah, he didn't have a lot of good things to say about the Jetta after that race at Road Atlanta a couple of weeks ago.
I don't think there's a single good word that he said about that thing. He hated it.
No, yeah, he hated every minute of it.
Sure,
of course, the fact that he spun every 3 corners probably didn't help the case. Actually, that's not true. He didn't spin every 3, maybe every 4.
You can give him flack for that. I still give him flack from when the time he ran out of fuel 3 times in the same race.
Oh.
He's not gonna be happy with either of us, but at the moment,
that's all right. I'll admit it. Look, one of my races at Road Atlanta, I actually spun the car 7 times, but then I passed the same guy 8 times. So, we all have our bad days at the track. That's all I could say. But yeah, so right now, as you see, and he is running in 15th position. He's got Robert Porter in the 136 Ferrari, who's we saw Porter earlier. Had that incident over at Moss Corner, and we'll have to see if Fitzgerald can get around him and move up through the field.
Yeah, it looked like he was closing back in. I think Porter might have just made a mistake that caused him closing, because now Porter's starting to expand the gap a little bit, so Fitzgerald not really looking like he might be closing into the back.
Yeah, but you notice there coming through Moss Corner, and I think this is where Porter had where Porter obviously suffered a couple laps ago. Is he seems to get on the brakes, I think, a little bit earlier, going into 5B, and a little bit harder than some of the other drivers. And we even saw where Fitzgerald closed up on him quite a bit, but Fitzgerald just doesn't seem to get a good exit out of the corner here. But you can see now, as they make their way onto the front straight, Fitzgerald all over the back of Porter here, and I'm sure the draft had a little bit to do with it, but I think he had a good run coming out of Moss Corner as well.
Yeah, in fact, Fitzgerald had a really good Sector 3 in general. Got all the way back of that Ferrari, and I could see starting to lose that time through the first sector of the track. Looking at another close battle that's starting to develop. In fact, there's a few here. It's Frank Curzio, who I don't think we've really talked about at all since the green flag dropped. Currently running 7th in the 11 car. Started back in 15, so climb up to 7. Good climb up 8, +8 for the 11.
Yeah, and you can see he's making up ground on Kessel now in the 19.
This is the run out of turn. Oh, you're saying?
Yeah, no, I was going to say, I think, the last time by Taberzi was, he actually lost a little bit of ground to Kessel last time by, but he seems to close in again at Moss Corner. I'd like to see how these cars are trimmed out as they make their way down Andretti, to see if Taberzi can close up there, or if he is just out of the draft and loses.
Oh no, he's catching. You see visually how much he's closing in comparison to Landy. Sorry, not to Landy, to Kessel. 2 miles an hour difference at the end of the straightaway, and that's where, again, this is really where a lot of guys love to make their passing into turn 8. And even through this final sector, you see Kessel go wide. The damage of the car, I imagine, hurting him.
Yeah, well, and you saw Kessel get on the curbing all the way drivers right, coming through the S's, setting up for turn 9, and you'll notice that a lot of other drivers, what they do is they don't necessarily enter turn 9 all the way from driver's right. They cheat it in just a little bit, because that corner it opens up just enough that they can basically save a couple of feet on that run through 9 and up onto the front straight. And I think he gave up some ground there, and certainly we saw him lose it, under the draft. But then here, as they come down the hill, Tiburzi doesn't seem to have maybe the commitment, we'll say, coming through turns 1 and turn 2. Matter of fact, Chad Griffith looked like he might have gained a little bit.
Yeah, he's gained a lot of bit. I mean, this is on the last lap alone. Here, take a look at this. This is Chad Griffith's time, 118 flat for the most part. Frank Tiburzi, 118.7, and Kessel ran a 119. So yeah. Griffith catching them at a pretty fast pace. Yeah,
very fast pace to run almost a half a second faster than the car ahead. Yeah, you can see here now making up a ton of ground.
The lap times again as they come across. Oh, Kessel really struggling with that final corner.
Yeah, but Tiburzi did as well on exit as well. Looked like they both turned in a little early and really had to yank the car across to keep from running off the edge of the rumble strips there.
Whoa!
And again, you see Tiburzi going for the long ride and right behind Tom Layton in the number 12 car. I think maybe took a little more evasive action than he needed to, but you know, didn't hurt him all that much. He manages to take the position away from Tiburzi.
Yeah, and so Tiburzi going to drop back in 8th place for Griffith.
Probably not 7th. Layton. Chad Griffith gets around Tiburzi. Sorry.
Let's take a check in on Layton though. He has made a trip down to pit road to get a fast rid of that car. Being in pristine condition. Unfortunately, would love to have his position back and get running in the top 3. So again, started up in 2nd, all the way back to 9th. Ooh, did I see a car go across the screen?
Yeah.
Oh no!
Oh, that looks like it was was that Tiburzi that went off? Yeah,
went off again. This time in Moss Corner. Again, a really troublesome corner for drivers tonight. Just lazy spin as he caught the grass there. Did a great job saving it. Didn't hit anything.
Yeah, came across and. You know, you could kind of see when he entered into the first part of Moss Corner there at 5A, he just turned in a little bit early. And when you do that, it just really compromises your entry into the second part of the corner there, and you just end up pushing all the way off driver's left.
Looking back at Dave Fitzgerald, he's actually gotten past Porter in the 136, and actually looking at Porter, he's gotten passed by Andrew Chow in the 29. There's a Mercedes AMG.
You know, we might want to look just a little bit ahead of that battle. I was gonna mention that.
Whoa!
Looks like Don Man. Oh wow!
Picked a great time to come to that. Francois Brou
I was just gonna say we want to look at Don Manning and Francois Brou, and there you go.
He actually, here's the funny thing, Brou was right up to the back bumper of Manning out of the final corner, and then made that all up through turn 1. He got all the way back to the back bumper of that 92 car.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing there after having thrown away all the momentum that he had to get it back in just the span of like a corner or two. So that the Mercedes there, and you know, again, one of the few Mercedes that we have on track today. He is the fastest of the bunch. He's all over the back of the BMW, and he takes the position. So that moves Francois Brou now up to 11th and puts Manning in the number 92 Z4 down in the 12th.
So as we've gone over halfway through this race, just about to pretty much start the second half. We're pretty much in the second half at this point here at Mosport. Again, my name's Finney DeCuna. I'm here with Greg Ginsberg covering the first round of Season 3 for this group of drivers. And for the most part, well, even though these drivers spread out, pretty interesting race so far.
Yeah, for the most part at Mosport, yes.
Say that 3 times fast.
Yeah. Oh, I obviously couldn't say it once. So, yeah, it's been a great battle so far. Now, of course, we haven't checked in on him for a while, but Ken Hausiel, after an incident that slowed both he and Ryan Maloney down, about 10 minutes into the race over at Moss Corner, Hausiel has really cemented his lead. He now has about a 5-second lead over Ryan Maloney in the 13 car, but and seemingly doing very well with traffic here as well. Just running a very quiet race, which is, I'm sure, exactly what Hausiel wanted. Yeah,
just showing really the amount of dominance for Ken Hausiel. Led 21 of the 27 laps completed so far. For Maloney, has led the other 5 of that.
Oh, and let's see what Maloney does here. That's where Maloney got into trouble early on in the race from the lead. And you can see he waited a little bit longer to see what this car did. That was 77 of Scott Merker, who went around over at Moss Corner.
what happened to Merker to end up in that spot. And talking about Calamity Corner, it's been Moss tonight for these drivers. It's gonna catch some grass. I think we've seen guys crash in almost every way imaginable so far. It seems every wreck is different in the corner. It's something or the other.
Yeah, sometimes again it's turning in early for the first part of that sequence. For some of them, it looks like that they just don't get their braking done in time, and they just run out of track before they have to turn in again, and they run off. But yeah, it seems different for almost every single driver there, and I would suspect that a couple of them have done it different a couple of times and done it differently each time. There you go. Look at all the damage there on the right front. I guess it's Andrew Kessel in the 19 car.
Yeah, Kessel in the 19 holding off Chad Griffith. Oh, and he's going to catch some grass. As Griffith is going to work his way on by. That was pretty easy for Griffith. I thought he was going to have to work for it.
Yeah, made it simple. Let's take a look at it again as they come out of turn 10 back onto the front straight.
Final corner. Again, very easy to just gas it up too early, and for Kessel did exactly that, went off into the grass. There you see Griffith going to say thank you very much, made his job easy, and around on by he went.
They did not even have to adjust his line.
Oh no!
Just kept on the throttle and went, Kessel goes off
this
again.
This is back live. And for Kessel, going to have more damage to that car on the front, and this is down in turn, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, here we go. Coming out of turn 2. Yeah, coming out of turn 2, going into 3. Pulls the back of the curbing into the wall, and I would suspect now his day is probably done.
Yeah, we'll see. He might try to limp it back to the pits to
see if he can get that quick repair in.
Yeah,
actually, I guess he probably well. Yeah, he's going to be there on the pit lane for a while. Let's put it that way.
Hopefully, he does get back out there, but after that, not a whole lot of other close battles on the track. Just trying to look on through what we got. As far as movers, it's been pretty quiet for the most part, especially up here towards the front.
Yeah, things are separating a little bit. Now I don't know if we mentioned that Mark Shrivastava did get by Forrest Landy, and Landy said, "Oh wow!" Speaking of Mr. Shrivastava there.
Yeah, there's some other stuff going on down into turn 2. So there's an Audi go around. There's Harry Horning in the 6.
Yeah, and then it looks like we had Fitzgerald following through after that.
There's another Mercedes that went around as well. Oh.
Yeah, and you can see there we had Shrivastava, and then one of the Ferraris.
Yeah, this is might as well try to also point out here. We're talking about blind corners here as we ride on board with Shrivastava here coming through turn 2. Mercedes in the grass and an Audi in the way.
Yeah, there we go with the Forrest Landy to the right, the Audi to the left, and he just splits the gap.
You see also there's Robert Porter in behind the 136. These guys not on the same lap. Porter all the way back in 13th, one lap down.
But somehow those Ferraris still seem to find each other on track there.
Yeah, we got Porter right here, and Landy currently running in 5th.
Landy, of course, he's running in 5th there, so a lap up, and then I believe the car right behind Landy is a lap down as well.
Yeah, I'm trying to see whose car that is. I have.
It's one of the Mercedes. No.
Oh, Andrew Chow. Running 23rd all the way up into 14th, so pretty solid day for the 29 car, all things considered. And actually, he's looking to pass Landy. This is a bit unusual. See the lap car get past the lead lap car.
Let's see here if we can. Yeah, it looks like Landy pulls over driver's right, and makes the pass.
Up for position, so for Chow just move up a little bit fast, but yeah, like I was saying, very unusual to see a situation like that, especially in GT3 racing.
Yeah, now, Landy didn't get a good jump out of Moss Corner there, and it looks like, as we've seen him a couple times. Oh, look at this on the pit lane.
Yeah, so Ryan Maloney down into the pits.
Yeah, I wonder what happened to Maloney.
I think this is him just coming down for service. I see his pit limiter on. Yeah, there he goes off and away.
Yeah, so probably came in for fuel to make it to the end of the race.
lead, so he will come back out. Also, we'll repair that machine too, so we'll be able to pick up pace. Remember, got into the nose of I think it was an Audi.
Yeah, it was.
That was spun in Moss.
That incident that they had over at Moss Corner, like I said, about 10 minutes in, and it was nose to door.
That's actually notably going to put Maloney right back in behind Leighton. And notably, I'll pull this thing back up again as well. Look at the pit stop time for Leighton. Just came in, didn't do any service really to the car. I don't know what kind of service you can do in 4 seconds except for the fast repairs. So went in, got back out for Maloney. He got service to that car, got 20 seconds worth of service.
Yeah. So now again, we know, or at least we think, that that our leader Curzio plans to go the entire way without bringing the car down the pit lane. Of course, unless the car gets damaged, but he thinks he has the fuel strategy all figured out. That he's going to go to map 2 or map 3. There, give up a little bit of ultimate time, but right now, with almost what I believe about a 30-second gap back to Christopher Lapras, he definitely has some time to give.
Oh yeah.
He's got a great margin there that he can dial it back just a little bit and probably make the car go all the way to the end of the race. Or
on the flip side of things, we decide he's not going to save enough. He can just push a little bit harder, come in, get a splash of gas, and off and away.
And yeah.
Yeah, so he's got quite a bit of options. That's what this kind of lead buys you. And there you see how still across the line. There's Lapras all the way on the back straight, still working through. So very big gap between the cars, and an even bigger gap, or not an even bigger gap, but further back is Arch Rostrova in third in the moment in 7.
Now it should be noted, we were marveling at how fast all the Z4s were at the front of the field, and of course Curzio is still sitting up in the lead. But Lapras, having run a fairly quiet race, and we mentioned how he had been really all by himself, sitting in third for more or less the first half of the race. In that Audi, I guess slow and steady. And not so slow, but it's put him in a great position to at least take a podium spot here.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure he's gonna be trying the best he can to potentially, if anything, get back up to Curzio. Curzio again with the lead he's got a lot of options to potentially save gas. I think Lapras, any hopes of him hoping that 23 runs out or can't make it to the end is pretty much out the window. And then you also got to think too, can Lapras make it to the end?
Right. Yeah, I don't
this is
know
a different car.
What the fuel story is with that. Of course, as much as Lapras was running pretty much in no man's land for the first half of the race, he may have been doing some fuel saving of his own without any real worry about the at that time the 4th place driver coming up on him.
Back at Ryan Maloney, I think he had an off last lap through. I'll actually see quickly if I can try to find it. Yes. Oh, found it.
All right, let's take a look.
Heading into turn 3. This is the last lap again. Little bit wide.
Out. Yeah, drops the wheel coming out of 3.
Oh, and damaged the nose again.
Yeah. And we saw that with another car earlier. Again, you come around the outside, you drop the wheel, and you fight the car, and things then straighten out. The track comes back to you, and you've got your wheel. You've got the steering wheel cranked over about 30%, and the car's just going to hook right around, and those walls are so close to the side of the track there.
Yeah, and there you see now we're looking at a battle for 5th place. Chad Griffith, he got past Leighton after Leighton had an off last lap through, was about 6 seconds slower, but here they go side by side through turn 4. Wow. Someone's going to have to have going to Moss Corner. It looks like it's going to be Griffith to Leighton.
Yeah, well, let's see if Leighton can hold on coming out of there, and he does.
Great job. So Leighton, aggressive move is going to pay off for him up in a 5th place. And for Maloney, getting service to the car, that kind of just went out the window because that car beat up yet again. So this has not gone the way you would have hoped. They started in 3rd place and currently running in 7th. Not the worst of days, but definitely I think he would imagine this could have been a lot better, especially since he had the taste of a lead for a little bit. But looking back for leaders,
I think as we're looking back through the field here, I think I think the closest battle right now was probably that battle between Leighton and Griffith, possibly also Lee and Merker in the battle for 16th.
Yeah, I actually found one that's a little closer, looking at Sly Stafford and Francois Brou. Sly Stafford in the Ferrari up ahead, and there you see Brou in the Mercedes, currently the highest Mercedes in the order, in 9th.
Yeah, and we had seen the battle. I think it was Brou and Manning a little bit earlier in the race, and you can see Brou definitely, when he has the chance, not only aggressive, but he's really been able to pounce on some of these other drivers' mistakes.
Trying to catch back up to Stafford here, and you can see how much through turns 2 and 3, how much time he made now heading down into Moss Corner.
Now remember, Stafford has issues with over-braking here going into Moss Corner, and so you can see Brou comes all the way up the inside, and we'll see if the torque of that Mercedes can get him off the corner faster than the Ferrari, but no. But this has been, an issue for Sly Stafford almost the entire race. He just does not seem to have Moss Corner, turn 5 there, under control, we'll say. He does overbrake on entry compared to almost every other driver we've seen him go.
Oh,
into
and went
that
wide here
with.
and through turn 8. Now Brou all over the back of him yet again.
Yeah, and it looks like on exit he actually went to the brakes as well. But we'll see here as the track kind of opens up a little bit coming down through turn 1 and heading into turn 2. You'll see he opens up a little bit of a gap back to Brou.
The last time through Brou, a really good line, made up a lot of time. He's going to try to get that again, or even this time through.
Yeah, I mean, if Brou can be a little bit closer than last lap, coming through turn 4, heading up to Moss Corner, he may be able to make that pass coming out of the hairpin at Moss Corner stick.
Here we go. Speaking of which, heading down into Moss Corner through turn 4.
A little bit further back that time. And a matter of fact, it looked like Brou had some issues getting out of 5A, the first part there. Got a little wheel spin coming over the curb at the entry.
Closest battle on the track between these two drivers for 8th place.
Now, is that our leader sitting right behind them?
Indeed it is. Ken O'Seal in the 23. Oh, and Brou,
here we go.
big
Brou
dive
coming
to the
down
inside. Wow.
Yeah, he waited. That came out of nowhere. But
I'm gonna take a look here on that, because that caught me by surprise. I was not expecting a move down there.
And guarantee you it caught Sly Stafford by surprise. Let's take a look.
Yeah, he was a few car lengths back. Look at this. And I think this is Stafford. I think he just braked too early, and Brou said, okay, I can go a few extra meters. I'm going to dive. Great move.
Yeah, but it wasn't even just going a few extra meters. There was a marked difference in braking effort there as well. I think it seemed more like Brou, took that almost as a evasive maneuvers to keep him going into the back of the Ferrari.
Well, moves himself up in 8th place. Unfortunately, his time of being on the lead lap is coming to an end here as he's got Ken O'Seal in behind. He's also got a lap car himself in front. This is a traffic jam here on the Andretti Straight. Here, Ken O'Seal, what are you doing this mess?
Well, I think he's doing exactly what he should be doing, which is just sitting back and letting things unfold in front of him. Oh, there's no reason to push the envelope here, and he's got plenty of gap back to Chris Lapras. At this point, we're running on almost half a minute separating our front running car and our second place car. So you just kind of sit there and you wait for a gap, and now that Brou is no longer really in a battle with Sly Stafford, Brou may just let him by at some point.
Yeah, there's also the thing too. I mean, he doesn't, as you're saying, doesn't even need to really pass
No.
Francois Brou for really the rest of his race. He only got 10 minutes. There's no way that Lapras is making up, even if he rides him behind Brou, who's not that far off the pace, mind you, as well. He can just ride him behind and just hang out for the last 10 minutes.
Yeah, get a little toe down the back straight.
And actually, that's an important thing too, because we were talking about saving fuel. That's the best way to save fuel. In fact, though, let's actually ride on board here. I'm curious to see if he's going to just kind of stick him behind.
Yeah, it looks like now he's going to step out and go on by. Well, maybe not. Brou's not making it easy for him, but yeah, you can see Brou got all the way over driver's right, kind of let him by there.
Curzio going to get clear and going to try to extend that lead even more. There's Lapras all the way on the opposite side of the track, working through Moss now, this time by.
Yeah, and he's got to deal with the same traffic that Curzio has, and he's got a little bit of a gap there, but it would be very, very difficult for him, given his current pace, to make it up to Curzio. Curzio would pretty much have to fall back to Lapras in order to make it a battle here, with, just as you mentioned, a little bit under 10 minutes to go.
Yeah, a lot of our top 3 and 4 drivers separated by seconds between each other. So now it's just a matter of making to the end of this race. And at this point, are you willing to push for those extra seconds, or now it's just a matter of riding and coasting?
And you see this here on the virtual platform. You see it in real life also. When you get complacent, and your mind starts to wander a little bit, that's when bad things happen. I frankly, I understand Curzio's got more pace than a lot of these other drivers, but I'd almost rather have somebody else ahead of me, kind of as a rabbit, to kind of keep my mind in the game. But if I was like here, like Ken Curzio, with really nobody in front of me, and all I had was to focus on turn in, apex, exit, lap after lap, without anything to really to fight for, my mind would probably start to wander.
Yeah, and I've definitely been in that position too. Yeah, you just started thinking of other things, oh, what am I gonna eat after this, and just stuff like that. Because once you get down to it, because again, we were in the last 6 of the race, again, not a whole lot happening. The gap's pretty large, and you're not focusing on who's in front of me, who's behind me, and the whole 9 yards about the race. You tend to wonder, and then that's when you start missing apexes and finding yourself in the tire barrier.
Exactly.
Also, something might have happened here.
Yeah, this is Forrest Landy again, who's he's running in 5th. Looks like he just gave up a position to Leighton, so maybe we had Landy go off.
Yeah, this is actually on the straightaway here. Oh, and Landy actually... Oh, he might have had a cut corner, because he just got on the brakes.
All right, so let's see here. Yeah, maybe jump the curbing over at Moss.
Oh, he took it perfectly.
Yeah.
And then here, riding on board.
Yeah, looks like he just came out of the throttle.
Let him on by, I guess. Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, you could see he drove all the way over. Of course, there's a little kink in the track right there, but he came all the way over driver's right. Yeah.
Yeah, so that was a anticlimactic exchange. I see Ed Griffith here. The timing went away for a second. I thought he was battling with another driver, but finding himself in 7th place.
Yeah, with a big cushion as well. Francois Brou and the Mercedes, who had been watching before, almost 25 seconds back from here.
Actually, here's the thing. So we mentioned earlier that we only had 20 guys left in the race. For most of this race, we've been running with about that much. It looks like we lost 2 more. Harry Horning and Murphy Nichols in 5. They've called it a day. Colin Daner, currently the last car running on the track.
The baby shark, yeah. There we go.
Mr. Seeks, Mr. Meeseeks is the name of the character. I should have remembered this. This is from in one of the other series we run. Someone ran the same. I'm gonna call it balloons. I don't know what show or where it's referencing from, but they're running that on their car. The funny thing is, I feel out of date. I'm only 22 years old, and I feel old.
You feel out of date. Oh my god. I mean, unless he was in the car dressed as like Mr. HR Puffin stuff or something, I wouldn't know. Unless he's dressed up in like some crazy Sid and Marty Krofft outfit, I wouldn't have an idea. All right.
Notably, Chad Griffith just come down pit road. You see him exiting now. I got a little bit of service, just I imagine splash of gas for him, 8 seconds. Yeah,
just a little bit of gas to get to the end.
And then again, that's really raised a bit of concern because again, BMW and these guys can run different amounts of fuel.
Right.
Looking at who's yet to come down pit road at least once this race, Don Manning in the 92. BMW, Forrest Landy in his Ferrari in the 4 car, Mark Rostrova in his BMW in the 87 running in 3rd, Christopher Lapras in 15 Audi, second, and of course our leader Ken Hausiel.
And where things are running down, we've got probably given the time about 4 laps to go, give or take.
Yeah, about a little bit, maybe 3, might be 4. I have to see. It's gonna be close.
But Hausiel now at pretty much the perfect time. He's as I've been saying that I'd like to have somebody in front of me and keep my focus, but he's got a nice gap in traffic there, at least momentarily.
And he's actually picked up the pace. Last lap he ran the lap prior he ran a 117 flat. Just went a little bit quicker than that, 116.9 last lap through. So you're talking about again not taking a break and just pushing, and he's doing that and keeping up a really solid pace. The gap now over half a minute, 31 seconds between himself and Lapras.
Yeah, it's just in the last couple of laps, he's opened up maybe another 2 seconds over Lapras. So yeah, definitely not slowing things down.
Lapras running a little bit slower than Hausiel, 117.4.
Yeah, and again, there's that 4 to 5 tenths difference that we saw in qualifying. So both of them running more or less their optimal lap times here. And there's Shrivastava, who had worked his way now back into 3rd place, gets around Tom Layton.
We saw Layton get past Forrest Landy in a very peculiar manner. I imagine maybe Landy might have gone off a little bit earlier in the lap. We didn't get a chance to see.
Yeah, maybe it was just trying to get things back under control.
Those things really can be annoying depending on the corner you get a cut in. You go a little bit faster and it starts adding time, which is probably one of the most frustrating things. So for Landy, he had to give out that up. Still running in 5th, and again, not really anyone close to him. The next driver close to him behind him is Ryan Maloney. For Maloney, how do you think he's going to feel after this? Do you think he's going to be disappointed, or do you think he'll be content with the 6th place?
Given that he had that incident from the lead, and he was, I don't know if he would have been able to hold off Shrivastava for the course of an entire 60-minute race, but he put almost 10 laps in as the leader, is a good chunk of the race, and it was unfortunate. I'd love to talk to him afterwards, because I would suspect that he's probably had 2nd, 3rd, 5th, and 20th thoughts about how he might have been able to avoid that incident.
Yeah, and I think that's the worst thing about a driver, especially in the middle of a race too. You're running, what could have been. It happened to me quite a few times in my own races. If I didn't make that mistake, things could have been a whole lot better. And really, as a driver, I think the best drivers are able to get over that pretty quickly.
I always wonder about that. I mean, and yeah, absolutely. If I'm behind the wheel of a real race car, you really have to put that behind you, because you run the risk. You lose focus for a couple seconds there, and you run the risk of throwing the car away. I wonder how some of these racers in a virtual environment, if they think the same way, or maybe because they might lose a race, but there's a little bit less less collateral damage, that perhaps it may stick with them in their head maybe just a little bit longer.
Yeah, now that we're talking about drivers making up for what happened, Layton started in 2nd, was running in the top 3 for a majority of the early part of the race. Worked his way back up to 4th, so a really good climb forward. In fact, he's actually It's kind of late in the race now as we're going to go through the last two laps, but he's only 2.5 seconds behind.
Under a minute. I say the next time by, our leader probably will be getting the white flag with 1 to go.
Speaking of the devil, here he comes across the line for Ken Halseal. It's going to be white flag in the air for him.
Yeah.
Very solid performance from this 23 car indeed. Of the 47 laps were set to complete there, he's led 41 of them.
Yeah, we still have people out in the infield watching. I wonder if their feet get tired standing there and not moving for an hour.
Yeah, it definitely curious if they're going to take a break. I definitely know Halseal has not been taking a break. He's been pushing quite a bit, and we're talking about if he's able to make it on fuel. I think at this point, you gotta hope that, or imagine that he's going up. Whoa! Close to grass.
Yeah, drops. And that is not a place where we've seen drivers drop wheels. They're over in what's known as what is considered 5C. It's actually the third portion of Moss Corner, but he does. But he gathers it back up, and I was just about to say that, and I think it's a little bit late in the race for us to be talking about it since he's about ready to take the checkered flag, about how his entry into Moss Corner is so different from a lot of the drivers that we've seen here. But he comes through the very last corner on the very last lap, and taking the checkered flag is Ken Halseal.
Yeah, great job by him. A dominant performance on this 23 machine. Well, quite a bit ways further back is going to be Christopher Lapras. And I mean, if Halseal, if he didn't correct that mistake, he easily could have been in the wall, and Lapras could have been the one winning this race. So it isn't over until it's over, and it's over now. So for Halseal, safely across the line for him. Lapras, a very, very quiet day in his 15 Audi. He's going to work his way through the final series of corners, and he's going to find himself in second place.
Yeah, I was going to say, as he comes around and gets a little loose on exit of the last corner here, but I don't know.
Oh wow! And look at the gap. Look at the gap between Chirosra and Leighton. Leighton made up 2.5 seconds in 2 laps, and unfortunately, not going to be enough. As Chirosra going to come home, complete the podium. Leighton going to have to settle for 4th.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I was thinking that Lapras, when he came through, he probably didn't see the leaders for pretty much after the first, I guess, maybe 3 laps, and didn't see anybody behind them for about 40 laps. So he had probably the most quiet of quiet races there. All right, so looks like we've just had, I think, crossed the line. We've had Forrest Landy in the number 4 car. He crosses the stripe. He's going to finish 4th. We've got Francois Breu crossing the stripe. I think, Breu should have come around by now. Don Manning, Robert Porter, Andrew Chow. And there we see our winner, Ken Halseal. For International Donut Day, he's giving it a run.
Oh, is it?
Yes, it is.
Hey. That was a really good burnout. I mean, you don't typically do burnouts in GT3 cars.
Doesn't he wreck it? No, he doesn't wreck it.
Did a really good job keeping off the wall. Yeah, really good burnouts.
Oh, and I thought for a moment he was going to do a Petey Cunningham reverse donut, but you'd need a front wheel drive car for that. Yeah,
I was going to say I'd really enjoy doing that on the Audi. But as Ken is wrapping up his celebration here, go through your finishing order here really quickly. Yeah,
there you go. As we mentioned, Halseal with Lapras in the Audi finishing in 2nd, then Mark Srivastava, Tom Leighton, Forrest Landy in the Ferrari, in the top finisher in the Ferraris, Ryan Maloney, Francois Breu finishes 7th with the fastest of the Mercedes, then Chad Griffith, Sly Stafford, Dave Fitzgerald. Good run there. I think he made up almost 5 or 6 positions just in the last 15 laps or so. He's going to finish in 10th.
Yeah, really solid performance from him just to end up just inside the top 10 as we go to the next page of finishers.
But also interesting, if you look there, only had 4 cars on the lead lap. So a great thing there. Don Manning finishes 11th, Rob Porter, Andrew Chow, Andrew Kessel, who had probably the most disastrous day of all the drivers out there. Frank Taberzi in the number 11 car finishes 15th, and Scott Merker, Tom Lee, Colin Daner, Murphy Nichols, Harry Horning rounding out the top 20.
And we'll take over here. This is pretty much page exclusive for drivers that have retired out of the race, and a lot pretty big names on this list. Sam Scott, Mark Labanza, Greg Obadia, Evan Schickel, all retired out pretty early in the race.
Yeah.
On that note, don't go anywhere. We're gonna grab some drivers to interview, especially our race winner Ken O'Seal. So we'll be right back in a few minutes. Alright, we're back here at Mosport here with Mark Shrostova. Ignore what it says on the bottom. Not sure why it was acting up or the timing scoring as the drivers are coming across the line. Mark, unfortunately, it says that you finished second place. Unfortunately for you, it was back in third. Almost fourth there as Thomas Layton was running you down. Just kind of walks through how you were trying to hold on the last few laps.
Yeah, I saw Tommy catch me pretty fast, and I think right at the end there, I think he let off because we got together pretty early on. I think lap 4 or 5, he went off in 2, came across my front bumper, and we both went off track. So I think he just yielded third to me at the end there. I had no pace for him.
I mean, yeah, and obviously, what happened to you earlier in the race is unfortunate, but still bouncing back for a podium. You were talking about the fuel mileage for some of you guys, because most of the field ended up coming down to pit road. How close were you on the gas?
I had 1 lap of fuel left.
Oh wow! Okay, so you did a pretty good job saving.
Coasting. Yeah, I did no coasting. I didn't change fuel map or anything, and pushed basically as hard as I could through the whole race, and had 1 lap.
Oh wow!
Oh, that is definitely cutting it close. I know we had heard in the lead up, and I think during practice, Ken O'Seal had mentioned that he was going to be switching fuel maps partway through just to give himself a little bit of margin, but. I guess a lot of the drivers didn't need that, and we saw a lot of the Z4s pitting in and taking splashes of gas. Maybe they were just playing it safe, and they probably could have stayed out to the end.
Yeah, that was Mark Shrostova. Mark, thanks for talking to us. Finishing in third, and hoping that we can see you next week.
Yep, thanks, guys.
All right, see you in Sonoma.
On next to Christopher Lapras. Chris, you probably had, I think, one of the most boring days out of the drivers on the track. I think once after, I think, what was it, around lap 5, I want to say, you pretty much lost sight of the leaders and weren't really around anyone on the same lap as you.
Yeah, I would never guess there was 30 other cars on track.
Yeah, so I mean, walk us through how your day went. I mean, obviously, you were talking about this during the race, trying to, having a marker for you to chase after. Unfortunately for you didn't really have one, at least a visual one. So how are you just kind of trying to pace yourself amongst everyone else?
Oh, I had no choice. I quickly realized I wasn't going to make it on fuel. So I was doing like a whole bunch of coasting. And once I kind of did the math and realized I can't keep up with the top four or whatever the pack was, I just tried to finish it without pit stops and kind of worked out, I guess.
Yeah, so that and that actually plays out because Finney and I were talking about this during the race, that as you were sitting back there and you had a bit of that gap, that we thought perhaps you might have almost by necessity been doing your fuel saving at that point, trying to stretch things out for the race. And if things had ended up, I think, a little bit differently in how our winner played with traffic, you might have put you in a little bit better position. But great race today, and to be able to keep your focus over an hour's time without having, you have some of the slower traffic that you have to make your way through periodically, but to not have any, I guess, true battles on track and be able to keep your focus through an entire 60 minutes takes a lot of discipline. So a great race, Chris.
Yeah, thank you guys. It was fun. Like I said, maybe the Audi just is a little more thirsty than the BMWs, but I don't know how those guys did it going at the pace they were.
Well, and if you join us next week at Sonoma, where we've got the 2 25-minute races, that won't be an issue, and you'll probably be able to push a lot more and see what the strengths of that Audi are compared to the BMWs.
Yeah, absolutely. See you guys next week.
All right, that's Chris Lapras. He finished second this evening for the 60 minutes of Mosport, or Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. Do we have anybody else that we can pull in?
Yeah, indeed. We got our race winner, Ken Osceola. We were talking about boring races for Ken. The first half of it was pretty interesting there. I guess if you want to first start with that. Your little 3-car battle with Layton and also, who was the other driver? It was Maloney, if I'm not mistaken.
Maloney.
Yeah.
Yeah, so put it on pole and tried to manage the pace early. Got out to a little bit of a lead and then just tried to cruise and then fell off in Moss while those two were battling, and Layton followed me off. So then we both had to try to work back past Maloney, and I'm not sure what happened to Layton, but he fell back. And a lap car spun, and Ryan had not really enough time to react to it safely, and just had some contact. But
yeah, it looked like there might have been a little target fixation there. He went to the inside as the spinner went to the inside to try and get off track and clear his way for you guys. And you picked right and went around the outside. Now after that, though, a fairly quiet race for you. There was, I think, some periods where you were caught up with some slower traffic, pack of 4 that showed a lot of patience. Just kind of followed them around for 3 or so laps, let them work their battles, and when the coast was clear, you kind of scooted on through and continued. How'd that help you as far as fuel savings went?
So before that, I was pretty sure I was good on fuel by a couple minutes, so I wasn't too concerned about it. But then after that, it was like I had five minutes spare fuel, so it was no big deal. I mean, there was no reason for me to push those guys. Just they're having a battle. I have 30 seconds back to Chris or whatever it was.
Yeah, and I wanted to ask you, so at what point did you stop going in fuel saving mode?
So realistically, once Ryan was past me, I mean, the first 5 laps or so, whatever it was, until I had the mistake in Moss. I mean, I was pushing like 95 to 98%, somewhere in that range, trying to manage it a little bit. But then it was like I had to keep pace with Ryan, and he was going really fast. So just from that point, said screw it and let's go.
You definitely won by quite a significant margin back to Lapras, and looking forward to seeing how you perform next week.
Yeah, thanks guys. Sonoma should be a lot of fun.
All right, that's Ken Houseel, our winner tonight at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park, Finian.
Yeah, indeed. And that's going to pretty much wrap up coverage here from the 60 of Mosport. And as you were saying, next we're heading to...
Absolutely. Week number 2. And again, this is going to be an 8-week season number 3 of the Washington, D.C. region SCCA iRacing League. We've got great tracks this year, and it's next week it's going to be at Sonoma, but we're also going to be it's no longer the Mid-Atlantic Road Racing Series here. We're going to be going to some great places. We're going to be at Silverstone over across the pond. We're heading to Japan, to Suzuka this year, to another iconic track. We're going to be going to Spa-Francorchamps. It's going to be a great season, Finian, and each and every weekend, as we mentioned, next week, heading out to the West Coast to the site of the 2018 SCCA National Championship runoffs. That's Sonoma Raceway, and it should be a great time. Again, slightly different format. It's going to be 2 25-minute sprint races, and we'll see how the drivers deal with that.
Well, but for now, that's going to wrap up coverage here from Mosport, and my name is Finish Guna here with Greg Ginsberg, and me signing out.